Speaking to reporters in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine, a top quarterback in this year's class says he wants to be a part of the New York Jets. Is it feasible for the Jets to draft him at 7? Could they even potentially try to trade up for the playmaker? We'll break that down and much more, all coming up here on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by our guy Jeremy from Talkin' Jets and Jets Chaos.
J-E-T-S, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer, Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend, Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk here on this Friday evening, February 28th, 2025. Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. Greatly appreciate all your support. Here on the show, we're joined by Jeremy of Jets Chaos. Talk all things Jets, talk all things draft. Big draft guy. Was down in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl with our guy Dom C. So follow Jeremy, Jets Chaos, and Talking Jets if you haven't already. We'll be joined by him shortly. But at the end of the show, special announcement here, we will be doing our February membership raffle. The prizes we are giving away later on in the show. You're on the what do you call it? Wheel of Names if you gifted a membership. A Joe Klecko signed jersey, a Mark Gastineau signed jersey, Bill Parcells signed photo, a free merch item, and a channel emoji among the prizes we're giving away this month. Thanks so much for all your support. Can't thank you. Every $2.99 super chat and every gifted membership now moving forward will get you a ticket into our March membership raffle prizes to come soon. There, throwing questions for Jeremy and I call into the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. But let's bring on our guy Jeremy from Jets Chaos here on the program on this Friday evening. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here, Connor. I'm happy when you reached out and asked me to be on.
Jeremy, it's great to have you back on. Last time we had you on, I had to check before the show, was It was February 1st, 2024. So we were already, that was 27 days ago last year, and we were already Jets Chaos. There was no coaching search, so we were full gung-ho on mock draft starting January 5th last year.
That's amazing that you know that. It seems like a lifelong time ago. You know, that was the before times, before our dreams were shattered by this season.
Jeremy, I want to get into the main news from today. Cam Ward, obviously speaking to reporters in Indianapolis at the Combine, says, the Jets have a lot of really, really nice pieces. He said they're not too far off. And he said, quote, "I'm hoping I can be one of those pieces." I know overall you're not too high on this quarterback class, but where do you rank Ward? And would you be on board with the Jets potentially try to orchestrate a package to trade up for Ward?
Okay, so he's my number one quarterback this year, but I am a 2026 guy. Like I want my quarterback in 2026, but I'm a Jedi. I don't live in the extremes. There are scenarios where I'd be okay with it. I'm not one of these people who make my decision and then I'm 100% against it going. What I mean? If there was a way to get him at 7, I'm not jumping and screaming for it, but I wouldn't be cursing and yelling. I'd say, well, if they love him, then okay, I respect it, and let's just hope and pray he works out. But I love that he said that. I think it's a really great thing to hear him say that. Like, I wouldn't mind being a Jet, and because there's such there's this stigma out there. I mean, Jets fan base panicking that nobody wants to play for us.
Exactly.
So to have one of the highest public figures, in this draft class come out and said, love to be a Jet, certainly doesn't hurt us. So I certainly respect him for that. And I just wouldn't trade up for him, and one of the reasons I wouldn't trade up has nothing to do with him. It has to do with you're already gambling when you take a quarterback with your top pick. Like, it's already such a crapshoot, right? Very few generational players that break the rule of 50-50. Almost every other quarterback, it's like, who knows, hit and miss.
Exactly.
So just to risk the one pick, I think that's enough of a gamble to sit there and say we're going to give multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, and just pretty much risk the franchise, right? The next 3
Put it all on the line.
It's just, he's not a generational. If it was Andrew Luck back in the day, There's Peyton Man. There's been guys, even
Yeah.
obviously even what's his face, Travis,
Yeah.
no, I mean, there are guys that you could say make an argument to do that with, but in reality, in my 40 plus years, starting with the Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota, who made a trade where Minnesota basically sent every pick in the world they had for one player, Herschel Walker, and then watched Dallas use those picks to build a Super Bowl winner that won 3 Super Bowls. Ever since then, I think about 90% of the picks in my trades in my lifetime that involved multiple assets in the draft for one player have backfired. 90% of the time, it is not a smart move.
Now, Jeremy, let's say the unlikelihood that Cam Ward ultimately falls to the Jets at pick 7, and all these quarterback needy teams are passing on him. And what I'll say on that immediately is that concerns me a little bit. I know obviously you have to do your own evaluation on the quarterback. We're talking teams like the Browns, the Titans, the Raiders, the Giants, all passing on this guy, and he falls into your lap at 7. Does that change your stance on Ward overall? Do you take him? Are you still in that boat? I'm going for the franchise guy in 2026 because I think you made a great point overall there of, this is your guy if you're riding with him. I think Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji have to have the utmost confidence in drafting Ward if they're going to go ahead and make that selection, because this doesn't work out. You're locked into a 3-year plan when you draft someone, especially a quarterback, in the top 10. This doesn't work out. Their jobs, Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji could be on the hot seat entering year 3. So I think this is very, very risky if the Jets want to go ahead and draft Cam Ward here in the top 10. But overall, if he falls to pick 7, what do you do?
I personally don't take him. If he falls to pick 7, I'm not taking him. I'm very excited because I'm guessing that there might be some really good trade offers, and we might be able to have that opportunity to do what I really want to do, and that's trade back and get a haul of picks. I'd love to get an extra pick this year, if not 2. More importantly, I'd love to get some ammunition for next year. Just in case we do win 7-8 games, I want some ammunition to trade up next year. That's when I want my quarterback. And I don't want to trade multiple years of first-round picks and second-round picks.
Yes.
I want ammunition. Just if I traded back this year, give me our second or a first-round pick, depending on how far back we go. Take our 2 picks next year, our first round and the one we traded for. Those 2 first for another team's first that doesn't need a quarterback. Trade up next year. Get our guy, whoever that might be. There's going to be a few really good ones.
So even if he falls at 7, wow, Jeremy, you're passing on Cam Ward. Overall, I look at the board, because if Cam Ward's not there, then that leaves you with some, that means Ted McMillan's probably off the board. That means Mason Graham is probably off the board. Will Johnson, maybe Abdul Carter, certainly off the board. I mentioned Abdul Carter there. Now I want to get into that. The injury, obviously, which was revealed in Indianapolis, the foot injury. Now it's being reported he might not need surgery. Do you think that affects his draft stock at all? And let's say, again, the unlikelihood that he were somehow to fall to pick 7, do you take him, or are you not touching that due to the injury? Because I think that's a really interesting scenario. I think Abdul Carter, for me at least, is the number 1 player in this year's draft. Overall, just an insane pass rusher off the edge, the speed overall, great physique from Carter as always. I really, really like him. If he falls at 7, I take him. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way he's going to fall to 7. But if he did, let's live in the world where, yes, let's say these teams were concerned and passed on him for whatever reason. I run to the podium and I knock over old ladies on my way to the podium. You know what I mean? If I got a kid, let's say I got a kid that's going to make the pick for us. Sorry, not this kid. You could do the second round. I'm grabbing the piece of paper. There's no way. Because if it was an Achilles, that's a very different story. That's a different injury. But the kind of injury he has, I don't care. First of all, he'll most likely, almost definitely be ready by the season. And even if he wasn't, even if you put him on the pup and he couldn't, and he plays week 6, you got to balance the future. You don't pass up on a guy like that. This is for the position. This is as exciting a player as to me since Hutchinson. This is a guy that, that's very special. And what I love about him is his floor is really high, because in my opinion, even if he doesn't get as many sacks as you're dreaming and hoping he'll get, he's a guy who will seal the edge. So at the very least, you're going to get a real true edge who seals the edge, who's not going to give up the big running plays. He's not going to let the quarterbacks run right around. He's going to do those things that have killed us in the past, when when JJ went down and we didn't have JFM, we didn't have, we didn't have guys who could seal, so it was like, and it hurt us.
You mentioned trading back, Jeremy. I've been a big proponent of that. I've been very high on Ted McMillan. I think if he's there, you take him. That guy who I think you could plug right in on the outside when they ultimately do move on from Alan Lazard, Devontae Adams, 6'5", 212 pounds. Someone who's going to go up, get those contested balls. You can run the red zone fades with him, back shoulder fades. Just overall, I think a really versatile receiver. A wide route tree when you think of it overall, can run a lot of different routes, something you really want to see in a receiver. So if Ted McMillan's there at 7, I take him. But you mentioned trading back there, and I've been big on that. If, a guy like McMillan is off the board, if Mason Graham is off the board, if Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, all those guys are off the board, which most likely that's what's going to happen. How far, though, are you willing to trade down? I've been in some mocks where I trade back to like 35 in the second round, and the for example, the Giants or the Titans want to do what the Texans did a few years ago, where they double up, get those 2 picks in the top 10, like the Texans did a few years ago with Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. How far are you willing to trade down? I would be okay if going into the second round this year, because I think that's where the meat and potatoes is in this year's draft class. If that means you could pick up a 1 next year and then a few later round picks, I'd be okay with that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it. I would be willing to go back pretty far because of this draft. This is a bottom heavy draft. And when I say bottom heavy, I'm not talking about 4th, 5th, up to the 4th round, but the second round is the sweet spot of this draft. So if you get somebody that's willing to come along and give us their second, their third, maybe their 5th, next year's first, some crazy package, because we are going back pretty far. So if it was a guy that slipped like Cam Ward or something, and it was just a team that sees an opportunity to come back into the first round for another pick and grab him, like a Cleveland, like some team that passed up on him in the top 5, but said, "Oh, we'd love to then come back and get him." Yeah, man, let's do it, because in the second round, if I can get Fannin and your Watts, and you just get me a really good receiving tight end and a playmaking ball hawking safety. And then give me an extra third as well, where I might be able to lock in one of the defense, another defensive tackle. There's going to be so many defensive tackles in this draft, and there'll definitely be some in the third round that I love.
Yeah, a lot of interior defensive tackles in this year's draft. Jamari Caldwell, a big fatty you could plug in the middle right from Oregon. Kenneth Grant, even if you want to just go ahead and get your guy right away in the first round. Ideally, I would like him in a trade back scenario, but if he's there at 7, I think he's someone who can come in and fit a scheme right away. I like Mason Graham a lot. I think he's going to be a really, really solid player. If he's there at 7, though, I don't think it's just a foregone conclusion that you take him. There are some technique issues overall, the way he plays, and also something I noticed, I think he might be more of a scheme-dependent type player at the NFL level. I think Kenneth Grant is someone who you could draft right away, and he could fit right in on the inside next to Quinnen Williams, because I don't think you need to worry, Jeremy, about Quinnen Williams, who you're going to put next to him when it comes to the fact that Quinnen Williams is able to fit in any scheme. So you get Steve Wilkes' scheme, okay, he could carve out a role there. Aaron Glenn's scheme, boom, he could carve out a role there. So I would be really big on Kenneth Grant, especially in a trade back scenario. But if you really like him at 7, I wouldn't mind if you took him. What about Deion Walker, the big run stuffing interior defensive tackle from Kentucky in the 3rd round?
I don't like him as much as I actually don't like him that much, because I think there's a much better guy, much better value. I wouldn't even mind taking him in the 3rd round. The kid out of Toledo,
Darius Alexander.
Yeah, I think I would prefer him. I like him better. I do. Okay. And I didn't know, the only reason I even knew to watch the film and make that determination was because of our friend Dom C.
Of course.
And he pointed that out to me, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" And the only concern I have about Dorian Alexander is, obviously he didn't have the competition playing in Toledo that, some of the other, guys have to watch him against. But I don't care. He's just a big, strong monster. He's right. To me, he has a very high floor, because at the very worst, you have a run-stuffing defensive tackle. He is going to clog up the middle, kind of like we saw Jefferson do. I don't know why we let that guy go from 2 years ago. I think he was the perfect complement to Q. So why not?
Al Woods was a big loss. Like, I wish Al Woods, sorry to cut you off there, Jeremy, but if Al Woods was able to stay healthy even for because he went down in week 4, week 5, I think it was in Denver, and he had a safety. He had a safety earlier that game. I thought he's still on the older side. I think he's 36 now, so 34 in 2023, whatever. When he was obviously on the team, but he's someone who was a veteran presence, great locker room guy who had a lot of success for the first few weeks of the season next to Quinnen Williams before he ultimately went down.
And that tells you that we were a top 4 defense that year.
1,000%.
So it tells you that we don't need to have an all-pro defensive tackle next to Quinnen Williams. What do we need? We need a run-stuffing defensive tackle who does his job and holds his space, right, and protects Quinnen. So that's the perfect explanation of value. Like, do we really want to go for a run-stopping guy with a first-round pick when you can get that in the second, third round? In one of those rounds, I just think the value is a lot higher. And like Kenneth Grant, I love him, but I really love him for after a trade back or he slips in the second round. It's very hard to take him in the 7th with the 7th pick. But to what you said, if there's no trade partners and the guys we're talking about are gone, we might be in a situation where it's like that's who there is, and so it's going to be Tyler Warren or Malachi Starks or Kenneth Grant or Jabbar, the linebacker. Yeah. Like, you get into a situation where it's like, it's true. Like, other years, you'd never take them at 7, but you don't have a trade partner, and you just have to do the best you can do with the pick.
Yeah, I appreciate you tuning in, everyone. Make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. Jeremy from Jets Chaos here on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Smash the like button. Like I said, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those. Call into the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Jeremy, I know you didn't have the utmost confidence in, really the top quarterbacks in this year's class, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. What about some of the later round guys? A Will Howard from Ohio State, Kyle McCord, even a Tyler Shook, who was down at the Senior Bowl, who you saw play, who's now rising up draft boards, or even a Dylan Gabriel, who I think height is the main concern with him, and then obviously him being a left-handed thrower. Currently, right now, Jeremy, what's his name? Will Howard is my quarterback 2 in this year's draft class. I just think his ability, how he's going to be able to come in right away and adapt to a pro-level scheme, which he was running at Ohio State for the past few seasons with Chip Kelly, is something really intriguing. A really, really accurate pocket passer, solid athleticism. So Will Howard is my later round guy for the Jets.
If you take a guy, as long as it's outside of 92, I want 7, 42, and 92 to go to position players, right? So my first 3 picks, I am not using on a quarterback. If it's me, if you want Will Howard in the 4th round, if the Jets take him, if we don't sign anyone, and we're right now looking at all we have on the roster is Jordan and Tyrod, and they decide they're going to bring in Will Howard, I'm not going to cry about that in the 4th round. I mean, he's a good dart to throw. I mean, he's won big games in a big program, and it's, to me, with a 4th round pick, it's not too high of an investment that if you don't like the way he looks in camp, that you still can't make your move in 26. If we have an opportunity to get a guy in 26, we can still have Will Howard and say, okay, we're going to take our 2026 quarterback, but Will Howard's not a wasted pick. If you pick him in the 4th round or later, and he's a really solid backup quarterback, and now you got your QB2 for beyond to back up your 2026 pick, I'm totally happy with that. And then if he comes into camp and he lights it up, right, and he actually gets to play and he's great, now you don't have to worry about quarterback in 26, and you struck gold with the 4th round pick. I'm all about it. So I won't complain at all if they pick Will Howard at all, as long as it's 4th round or later.
Now, Jeremy, we spoke about trade back. We spoke about, staying and picking at pick 7. A prospect I want to get your thoughts on. There was the whole Bauer boys movement last year. Now it's the Warren Warriors is what I'm told it's called. The Warren Warriors, who want Tyler Warren at pick 7. And Jeremy, if I'm being completely honest, I might be a Warren Warrior myself. We're talking 6'6", 260-pound tight end, yak machine, able to catch anything. I'm super, super high on him. And it's so funny because I didn't want Brock Bowers last year. I wanted Olu Fashanu. But then I think to myself, it was a completely different, scenario, a completely different approach entering last year's draft, because let's be real, Jeremy, there were no holes on that roster entering last season. If you could go back and you could look at anything, maybe you wanted to add another running back or two before the draft, get a veteran in there. Maybe you wanted to beef up the defensive line a little, beef up the run stuffing. But overall, that roster was one of, if not the best roster in the entire NFL. So you had the luxury there to try to get a depth piece with Olu Fashanu at pick 7 and try to, pick 10, and try to get your right tackle, a left tackle of the future instead of, trying to draft Brock Bowers and then him come in and be your tight end right away. Now it's a completely different scenario. There are so many holes on this roster that I almost feels like you need a starter at pick 7. That's what I'm in the boat of. And tight end's position of need overall for the Jets right now. Kenny Yeboah, pending free agent. Tyler Conklin, pending free agent. Jeremy Ruckert, really a cut candidate at this point in his career, what he's shown throughout his first few seasons in the league. So thoughts on Tyler Warren at pick 7, depending on the board?
Well, I agree with you 100%. Apples and oranges last year to this year. And Tyler Warren's a different player than Bowers. I'm not saying better. That would drive the Bauer boys crazy, right? And obviously, Bowers had an amazing year, and I was a big fan of Bowers. But I wasn't at all against picking Olu, and for a lot of the reasons you said. But the main reason is it's a very weak class this year for tackle, and we need a right tackle. Can you imagine if we didn't take Olu, and now we're looking and we need a left tackle and a right tackle? So we're coming in, in a draft that's very weak in the position.
I don't think Campbell or Banks either one of them really are going to be tackles at the next level in the long-term future. I think Campbell with that upright stance is ultimately going to have to transition into guard. And Banks might be able to carve something out of tackle. Like he might be able to fit the mold of the position. The problem is he's too handsy, so he's going to get called for holding every 4 plays a game. So I'm not touching either one of those guys. And Josh Connerly, he's okay. Not in the first round, though. My guy for tackle is Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College in the third round.
That's my boy. Yep. Ozzie Trapillo is my guy. I love Josh Connerly, though, in the second round. Like, if we take Josh Connerly in the second round, that's a very, very high-value pick. I don't know if he's a day-one starter or if he is. He's going to have some issues maybe in the very beginning. But I think he's going to be an average to above-average tackle, which is I'm fine in the second round if that's what he panned out to be. He doesn't have to be an all-pro. But I do believe the value is with Ozzie Trapillo, because I think you can get him in the third round at 92. And I think that's incredible value because I think just like Josh, I think he's a guy who's going to be a starting right tackle in this league and a good one. And if you get him in the third round, that's what we always talk about as Jet fans. Why do we always have to use a first round pick to get a tackle? Well, to me, Ozzie is the guy that answers that question. You don't have to. Third round.
Exactly.
And you know what? Anytime he does something in the game or anytime they come running out of that tunnel, you play Crazy Train from Ozzy Osbourne. It's perfect. That scenario. But Tyler Warren, getting back to him, 7 is higher than I'd want to take him in a normal draft. But in this draft, if 10 is off the board. Here's the difference between Warren, though, and last year is that, one tight end is clearly not an inline tight end, right? Bowers, he's a great receiving tight end. Not that I wouldn't want him, but he's
like a wide receiver. He's like a big wide receiver.
You're getting a big slot receiver. Tyler Warren, again, it's a different draft. That's why it is ironic that he would go 7 and Bowers went 12. That's ironic, but he's a different player. And what I love about Warren, his best thing to me is that his floor is so high because even if he doesn't turn out to be a great receiving tight end, there's no way in my mind I can imagine that he's not going to be a very good inline tight end, a very good tight end for movement, a guy you could line up as a fullback in the backfield.
That's what I was going to say. Wildcat.
Outstanding athlete. So to me, like just in the sense that Bowers was, if he didn't work out as a receiver, he was worthless. He was more of a risk. He had his floor could have been disastrous, but it didn't turn out that way. And I'm glad for him because I loved him. But with Tyler Warren, though, we have some protection. At the very least, we're getting a very good tight end. And it's very hard to imagine him not having some success as a receiving tight end. He's very physical, very strong, great strong hands. Very hard to imagine that he's not going to be, at the very least, a good, decent receiving tight end.
Yeah, I agree with 1,000%. You mentioned the versatility there. You can run Wildcat with him out of the backfield. We saw that. Line him up on the outside, line him up as a slot receiver. Back to the tackle talk, though, Jeremy. It pains me to bring up the Morgan Moses situation. Now the Jets are expected to move off of him.
I
And
hate
my
that.
whole standpoint on this was you're just creating an extra hole now, moving on from someone who's a great locker room guy, someone who was an average starting right tackle in the league last year when he was on the field, someone who you could have brought back on a 1-year, $5 million contract. Now we're scrambling with the whole offensive line. First, though, thoughts on the Jets moving on off from Morgan Moses?
It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. One of the and I will say it flat out. It's not my opinion. Like, I believe it firmly. It's stronger than an opinion. Like, I'm very convinced that is probably the thing I'm having the most trouble with. Yeah, even with the Aaron Rodgers thing, nothing is troubling me more than the fact that they are not doing what they can to get Morgan Moses back. Because how long have we waited to have some continuity in this offense?
Exactly.
I mean, so not only is he a leader, not only is he good, and a solid player who plays hurt, he plays through injuries, but it's continuity. We have a chance to bring back the same exact offensive line, and I think it's just a failure to not do it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all. There are plenty of offensive linemen who've played until they're 38, 39. I say you wait until he's too old to play until you decide he's too old to play.
Now, Jeremy, how do the Jets address that hole? We spoke about going the draft route, but could they potentially try to slide AVT out to tackle? Then you bring in a Kevin Zeitler, someone who I was really, really high on last year, who was with the Lions this past season, has the connection to Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand, and most importantly, Steve Hyden, now the Jets' offensive line coach. I would be big if you could bring in Kevin Zeitler. I would be okay with the idea of moving Morgan Moses out to right tackle. The thing is, I like Morgan Moses at guard. He's serviceable there when he's healthy. He's shown he's pretty much an all-pro at the guard position. And whenever you move him out to tackle, he gets hurt. So ideally, I want to keep Morgan Moses at the guard spot, and then you bring in like an Ozzie Trapillo during the draft, someone of that nature, Hollins Pierce from Rutgers, someone like that, and then you add some depth options in free agency.
Yeah, I would rather see AVT stay at guard. I like the fact that he has the versatility to go to tackle. I don't mind it if the draft doesn't fall the right way and we end up with a guy, but we're able to sign the guy from Detroit, or if we're able to get a guy like Miles Frazier, who I love, in the third or fourth round. You grab a guy like Miles Frazier, who was totally missed by the scouts in the NFL and all the hype machines, because at the Senior Bowl, he was the best offensive lineman there for 3 days. They even moved him to tackle, where he performed well. At tackle, which was crazy because he's never done that. I wouldn't mind that as a backup option, that we could take Miles Frazier. If we can't fill the tackle position, then you could move AVT over. My dream scenario would be you bring Morgan back and you get Ozzie Trapillo. You know what I mean? And
yes. So then you have those two battle it out, and then whoever does not get the starting job then is the one of, if not the best backup tackle. So he could even be your swing guy. Like if you draft Trapillo, he could be your swing guy when Morgan Moses ultimately gets the day one starting nod. So he's either a really, really average, solid starting right tackle, Morgan Moses, or he's an insanely talented depth piece. One of the two, and he only cost you $5 million, by the way.
Right, and you take care of the future. Because now, when Morgan is gone, now you have Ozzie. So you have
Morgan grooms Ozzie. Exactly.
A beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's and if anything, we know more than anything as Jet fans, we should know and understand that depth at offensive line is never a bad thing.
Nope.
That's why I would still take Miles Frazier if he was there in the fourth round. Take him, because we like Wes was a good backup guard. That made everybody happy. Give me Miles Frazier. Give me a guy who could be a starter one day. If AVT wants too much money, or if we can't re-sign Simpson or can't extend him, if any of that goes wrong, I got Miles Frazier sitting there. So I'm happy with that. So to me, it's like you can never have enough. So like I would love to draft Ozzie and Miles Frazier and bring back Morgan.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. Connor and Jeremy here with you on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those. Pin comment at the top of the chat to call into the show. Sharon gets things started here today. Says trade back with boys at 12. Get extra second. Take Warren, Watson, Williams. All W's for winners. Now, Jeremy, if you could trade back to 12 and pick up an extra second, that would be great. But trading back to 12, depending on who's on the board, we're talking a team potentially trying to trade up for Ashton Genty. Maybe you get 70, a pick in the 70s, and then you pick up a later day 3 pick. I'm trying, Jeremy. I would love an extra second for sure. I really want to get a pick in that 70 range, though, because after the Jets pick at 42, you watch all these talented players go off the board until you're back on the clock at 92, and that's where you're picking from, the Deion Walker, Harold Fannin type players. So, Jeremy, where are you on this list from Sharon, and what do you think the value is really for pick 7 to trade back?
I mean, you could sign me up for this. Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure, give me Warren and Watts, right off the bat. Like, sign me up. Sure. I mean, and it's logical. Like, and I think you're right. If that trade happened, that would be the Cowboys certainly going after the running back. There's no, in my mind, that's what it would be. The only way I don't take Warren at 12 is if Ted is still there. And the reason that Ted McMillan could possibly still be there is he refused to run at the combine. So a wide receiver refusing to run, people aren't talking about it. He could drop. He could drop that.
I was listening, and that brings me to pretty much our next comment here from our guy Caden /Ward, also known as Ward/Dart Enthusiast. What do you think Ted 40 will be? I was listening, Jeremy, I'm sure you were listening as well, to Green Bean, Gunny, and Dom last night, who had great friend of the show, Antoine Staley, on the Thursday thick of it. And Antoine was saying, because he was down in Indy all week, he got home yesterday, he was talking to some people. He said there are some real talks. Scouts are concerned that Tet might run like a 4.65, a 4.7, something of that nature. So if he runs that, or he just doesn't run at all, it's certainly going to be a concern, because I was working on a Tet scouting report the other day, and one of the only, I think I had 2 negatives for him, and one of them was him lacking that top end speed. He's going to get you those jump balls. A contested catch rate of 60% last year, but he's lacking that top end speed to really separate. So it's certainly a concern. Hey, if he runs a 4.6, I'm still on board. A 4.65, something of that nature, I'm still on board taking him at 7, because his speed is not a main proponent of why I'm a huge fan of his.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got 2 words for you. Mike Evans.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so when you look at the receiver we have in Garrett Wilson, who I want to extend, we're looking for a great WR2. We don't need the WR1, 115 receptions, 15 touchdowns, quick off the line. The guy we got that guy, right? We got that guy. The guy I want is the guy we're in the red zone that I could throw the ball to the corner and have a guy who's going to jump up and get the ball and catch it.
And run a back shoulder fade with at the red zone and separate back corner touchdown every single game. Like that's who Ted McMillan is.
I want the third down receiver that if he's not open, you could just throw it up and he's going to get it. So it's all what you're looking for, right? And what you need. We need a WR2 big bodied receiver that complements Garrett Wilson. And in today's NFL, a WR2 big bodied receiver is worth a first round pick. It's not but wait to the later rounds. Not in today's NFL. In today's NFL, you need 2.
Now, Jeremy, I mentioned Ashton Genty. We spoke about the running back position overall, the Cowboys potentially trying to come up for Genty. Now I have to ask you about Breece Hall, the potential of trading him. I've spoke about it over the past few shows. I'm a huge Breece Hall fan. I have his signature here on one of the helmets alongside Garrett Wilson. I have a Breece Hall jersey. I think he's done great things over the course of his first few seasons with the New York Jets. He was a second-round pick, though. Doesn't have a fifth-year option. Ultimately, when all's said and done, the market for running backs nowadays. I don't think he's going to get a second contract with this team. They're not in an all-in win-now mode. A team comes calling me, 3rd and 5th round pick for Breece Hall in a super strong running back class with Ashton Genty's, Omarion Hamptons, Quinshawn Judkins, Trayvon Henderson, Damian Martinez, DJ Giddens, just to name a few, Brashard Smith. So many talented running backs in this year's draft. I think there's like 20, 25 who really have a strong chance to get drafted in this year's class. Super, super deep class. Team comes calling you, hey, we'll give you a 3 and a 5 for Breece Hall this year. Yes or no, Jeremy?
If that 3, because it also depends where it is. If that 3 is somewhere in that 75 range, I love him too. I love Breece Hall. And I think that if he doesn't have that injury that he had his rookie year, I think it's a very different career.
It started to flare up at the end of last season too.
Yeah, I think it's becoming very obvious that injury changed the projection of his career. Looking like an Adrian Peterson impact type of guy before that injury. He was changing games for us. he beat Denver with his before that happened. So it breaks my heart to say it, but if you offer me a fifth and you offer me the 75th pick or 74th pick in the draft, given that we already have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who look very good to me, and a draft full of running backs and plenty of 6th-round picks, I might have to just say yes and say that that's the smart thing to do.
Now, Jeremy, in that scenario, my next question, does that leave you on the, leave the option on the table, potentially taking Ashton Genty at pick 7?
If you already traded him,
Yeah.
like,
or you trade him on draft day.
Right. If you trade him, if you're going, Breece Hall's gone, and now you're at 7. I don't know if I would do it because of the depth of the draft and because of the guys we have in the room and the needs that we have. I don't know if we would do it, but can I see us doing it in that situation with Breece gone? Oh, yeah, I could see us doing it. I mean, and would I cry and scream even though it's not what I want? No, I would not cry and scream because there would be some excitement to it. It's not like I'd sit there and say, what are they doing? They're stupid. Because another part of me be saying, holy cow, this is a very magical player. Like, this is a very magical player. He is very special. And it'd be hard to imagine myself being angry about adding a player like that to our team.
For sure. And I think the thing with trading Breece, the downside, when I looked at it, is there, like we spoke about earlier, there are already so many holes on this roster. Trading Breece, even if you draft Genty, is basically just flip-flopping the two. That technically isn't even addressing any of the needs. So a lot of positives to it, and then a lot of downfalls. My whole thing is you might as well get him off the tape. Trade him now, acquire a little draft capital, then wait till next season. If you don't tag him, you're really gambling on him if you keep him this year and you don't tag him. Let's say you don't tag him, you let a 2nd-round pick who was homegrown walk for absolutely nothing. At least in this scenario, you pick up a couple picks for him. So I would be on board with that offer. Look, Ashton Genty is just, in my opinion, a generational talent is what I'd call him. 5'9", 215 pounds, just such a compact frame, so hard to bring down. A little things he needs to work on, the blocking a little, but overall, I mean, someone who's just such an elusive power back. Super high on Ashton Genty. My other he's not even a sleeper, but someone I'm higher on than most people is Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. 6 foot, 219 pounds, super difficult to bring down, a lot of burst, a lot of accelerations. He's also a great pass catcher out of the backfield. So Breece Hall, someone who was getting a lot of receiving. He wasn't too productive out of the backfield last year, but that was also because Aaron Rodgers aired the ball out a lot more than prior seasons. But when Zach Wilson was the quarterback his first 2 seasons in the league, he was a big part of the Jets receiving game overall. So you can bring in a guy like Judkins with that 3rd-round pick to hopefully try to replace Breece Hall. And then you have, Cam Scatterbo, you have Caleb Johnson, you have Dylan Sampson, Trayvon Henderson, all these names when you really think about it. So again, it would be tough for me to say goodbye to Breece, but if it's at the right price, I wouldn't hate it at all. I would understand the logic there from Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji. Sharon comes back in, says McCord in the 4th or 5th. Jeremy, another guy I'm super, super high on, 6'2", 225 pounds. Standard build for a quarterback at the NFL level, solid pocket passer, and my comp for him, Jeremy, Jared Goff. Jared Goff is my comp for Kyle McCord. Has the connection to Jared Goff, obviously, with Tanner Angstrom and the whole Detroit coaching staff. I think if the Jets, Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji see anything in Kyle McCord that resembles Jared Goff, I think they're gonna try to take him in round 3. I think he's ultimately going to go in the 3rd round. So again, that could be someone you try to pick, take with that 75th overall pick, something of that nature. If you were to trade Breece Hall, again, he's someone who Jared Goff is my comp for him. Grew up a Jet fan. Wears number 6 because of Mark Sanchez. I wouldn't hate McCord at all in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I mean, I'd obviously prefer him in the 4th. If this offensive coordinator who just played with Goff and just was the passing scheme, the passing design guy for the Detroit Lions, it comes in and this is the quarterback he wants to take, I'm not going to sit there and pretend I could possibly know more, be smarter than this guy. Like, obviously that would tell me if we traded or used the 3rd-round pick on McCord, that tells me that somebody much smarter than me, that's like coaches in the NFL, obviously believes in him. And as long as they take somebody they're not reaching, and they're taking somebody not because they feel they have to, but they're taking him because they believe in him and they really see something and it's going to work in his scheme, then, I'm just going to say, I hope they're right. And I'm going to cheer like hell and root like hell for that guy. So again, if I'm running the draft, I'm probably not doing that unless it's the 4th round. Then I'm considering it, especially if my staff is telling me we really want this guy, Mr. Jeremy, our general manager. But, I mean, it wouldn't be in my normal natural plan, but again, it's not something I would like complain or cry about or kick or scream about. I mean, the guy beat Cam Ward.
Yeah.
They won. Syracuse beat Miami, right? So
now, Jeremy, your thoughts on the whole Dart dude movement? I'll give my thoughts there in a minute.
So Dart's one of those guys that there's parts to him I really, really like. Like if I could ignore his mechanics and ignore the way he plays football.
That's
like
a big ignore, though.
Yeah, right. If I could just totally phase that out of my brain, his results are really good. It's like
Yeah.
he definitely has
a quick release, very quick release.
His arm is amazing because he doesn't to be able to do that with those mechanics means his arm is just magical.
Yeah.
He could be that outlier guy. I'm not using number 7 on him. No, I'm not trading up the 2nd round pick and giving up our 3rd round pick to get him. But if he slipped to the 2nd round and they took him again, I'm going to go with my defense. The way I'm going to reason that or make the logic in my head is going to be, they're smarter than you, Jeremy. I'm going to talk to myself. They're smarter than you. And if they believe that the mechanics are not enough of an issue for them and that they could turn this kid into something, it's not what I would do. I want to wait till 26. You use a 2nd round pick on Dart. You're not taking a quarterback in 26. I promise you that. And I think it's a huge risk. It could be a very big mistake that we regret. But if we do it, I'm not going to throw anything at the TV either. And I'm going to sit there and just hope that they're right, because there's things I do really like about him. He has a toughness that I really do like.
Jeremy, I'm super, super low on Jackson Dart, my quarterback 5 this year's draft. Have a late round 3 grade, early round 4 grade on him. My main concern, I agree, he has above average arm strength overall, multiple arm slots, functional athlete overall, quick snappy release, able to make throws on the move. However, the negatives, there are more positives than negatives when you look at just from a pure number standpoint. Watching Jackson Dart, I think I've watched over 4 of his games. I normally watch 3 on every quarterback, but I watched 4 on Dart because I really didn't see what I liked from him out of the first 3. So I wanted to just see an extra game of his so I can really, really form my opinion and come on here and talk about him. The 3 big negatives I have for him, the only 3 negatives I have, but they're huge negatives. Very, very, very slow to read defenses post-snap. Not going to fly at the NFL. Pressure bearing down reminds me of Zach Wilson, Jeremy. When pressure bears down,
the decision-making.
Yeah, the decision-making. The decision-making when pressure bears down to either hold on to the ball for too long or try to be Superman and make that big play.
You know the play you're talking about. You watched the Wake Forest game, didn't you?
I did. I watched the 4 games. I know we have the same film provider for college film, so I watched the same games that you did. So pressure bearing down, he tries to be Superman or he holds on to the ball for too long. That's another one. And most importantly for me here, the offense that he runs at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin.
It's a make-believe.
Exactly. It's quarterback friendly reads. Lane Kiffin, someone who was ripped apart a couple seasons in as an NFL coach with the Raiders. Great college coach, don't get me wrong. Great coach overall. He's like Nick Saban in the sense that great in college, put him in the NFL, he's an absolute mess.
Because that system does not work in the NFL.
Exactly. That system does not work in the NFL. So you're telling me I can get someone like Will Howard, who might not be as athletic as Jackson Dart, was more accurate overall than Jackson Dart, might not have all the all the arm strength in the world that as much as Jackson Dart, but he's someone who's going to have solid decision-making skills, someone who is running a pro-style offense at Ohio State, and someone who has a high floor. When you're looking to draft someone in the 3rd round, there's some guys, for example, like Jalen Milrose one. You take him, you're taking a complete dart throw. You're hoping he's, super low floor, but a super high ceiling. Will Howard might not have as high of a ceiling as a Will Howard. Will Howard might not have as high of a ceiling as a Cam Ward or a Jalen Milroe per se, but he certainly has, in my opinion, the highest floor among all the quarterbacks. That's why I prefer him.
Yeah, he's also a guy that, has a chance, like you're saying, to play the first season.
Yeah.
Anybody who's sitting there saying that, but like, if anybody who's a Jackson Dart guy, if you're a
A dark
Jackson,
dude.
if you're a Dart dude, right, you can't possibly tell me that you have any imagination that he could play in the NFL his first year. Like at a minimum, he needs a year. He needs a
Because you're
year.
going to teach him the position at the pro level because of
Right.
what he was.
Probably needs two, but
Mhm.
to anybody who's having, like, it's delusional to think that Dart could come in and play in the NFL year one, coming from, and it's just, and I don't want to insult anyone. I'm not trying to throw insults, but I mean, to me, it means you just don't know ball. Like, you don't understand. Like, you just don't understand it. Like, you don't understand. You could be a great fan and really know the game and watch the game and
Yeah.
understand, but you don't understand schemes. Like, if you sit there and think that Jackson Dart can go from that offense and that system, and that he's going to go and play in the NFL in a completely different system that puts so much more in a quarterback, and we've seen him under pressure, and we see the decision making and also the mechanics, and
Yeah.
will work in the NFL. I can't. It would be such. I mean, just him being successful in the NFL would be an incredible outlier just based on his mechanics.
Yeah. What I'm going to say. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, because people say, well, Josh Allen's mechanics weren't that great, or Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
throws up his back foot. People aren't paying attention. This is way beyond that. The guy's body, his bottom of his body is facing a different direction than the top half of his body. I mean, it is as bad as I've ever seen.
Yeah, and what I will say, Jeremy, I'm going to go back to what you said about Will Howard, and I think Kyle McCord could technically fit this mold as well, of coming in and playing year one because of what they were able to accomplish in a pro level scheme at the college level. For lack of a better comp, it could kind of be something. I hope it's not the case because I still hope the Jets are able to, get out 9 wins next season, which I don't think is crazy to say with competent coaching, reduced penalties, competent defense. You add a few pieces on the offensive side of the ball, and like I said, you have Tyrod Taylor who gets you 7 starts and Justin Fields who gets you 10 next season. I don't think it's crazy to go to potentially have a 9-8, 10-7 type season. Like I said, though, with competent coaching, with reduced penalties, obviously solid defense. I'm not predicting that to happen right now. I have the Jets going 7-10 next season. I don't think they're going to go 9-8 or 10-7, but I don't think we should just right away eliminate that because they didn't bring Aaron Rodgers back. I think that's a little too much. So for example, my comp would be with if you draft Will Howard and you start Tyrod Taylor, could potentially be if things go wrong right away. What the Patriots did with Jacoby Brissett and Drake May this past season. You give Tyrod Taylor the first 5 starts of the season. Veteran gets the starting job. In that case, Jacoby Brissett didn't do so well. Went 1-4, only threw for over 220 yards in one game. And then right after that, you see the young buck in Drake May with the Patriots would be a Will Howard, Kyle McCord with the Jets. Who Drake May, he was an average quarterback. I thought here's the thing. He was an average quarterback for NFL standards, but if I'm a Patriots fan coming off this past season, I'm super high on Drake May. I don't think it's, an immediate given that he's going to be the next franchise guy there, but after what I saw in year one from Drake May, I mean, what can't you be happy about the way he performed with all those incompetent weapons? I think that could kind of be what the Jets do with a Will Howard, Kyle McCord if they were to take one of the two.
Again, I think of the fans that don't think Dre May had a good rookie year, I think are delusional. I really do. Like, I don't understand what sport they're watching. Like, he had an excellent year as a rookie. And all the reasons you just said. When you look at the surrounding cast of players around him, how many times have we heard people make the excuse in our own town with our own quarterbacks? We didn't support him. He failed because of us. We didn't put the players around him. Yeah. And then you have a guy that comes out and plays the way he played and got better each week with that surrounding cast in New England. And you're not going to say, oh my God, because he's disproving everything we always say. Whenever we say, oh, well, we're not putting the right players around the quarterback. Well, how come he was able to do it? Because that kid got better every week. And I wish we had Drake May. I mean, like, I am so jealous in New England. And that's why I want to wait till 26, because I believe that draft is going to have those kind of quarterbacks.
Yeah. Overall, I want that franchise guy next year. A Lenora Sellers, a Nico if he were to come out, Arch Manning if he were to come out, Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier right now are my top 2 guys. The thing is, if you take Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders in round 1, then that's your quarterback for the next 3 years. That's basically the start of the Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji regime. You could take a quarterback in round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 this year, and you could still draft a quarterback in round 1 next year because you're not locked into that guy. You're not locked into that guy whatsoever. And that's what I like about a Will Howard and a Kyle McCord. You're not locked into them a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders.
That's right. And that could be your guy if you're about your quarterback too forever. Right. I mean, that could be your guy too. I mean, and that's not a horrible thing. You get a guy in the 4th round, even the 3rd round, and they're a good, reliable backup quarterback, and they stay on your team for 5-6 years doing that. That's an incredible value in that pick, because we all know, we should know by now, quarterback 2 is an important position. Quarterbacks don't play 17 games a year, right? I mean, knock on wood, you wish they would, but like it just doesn't happen. Having a quarterback who could come in and still win games and give your team a chance to win is a pretty important thing. And if you can do that with a mid-round draft pick, that's pretty awesome, because right now they're getting expensive. If you want a proven backup quarterback to come into town, that's costing now 10 to 15 million, 10, 12 million.
Exactly.
Like, real money for those kind of quarterbacks.
Jeremy, you were down at the Senior Bowl. You got any thoughts on Tyler Shough from Louisville? He's someone who's been in college, I think 7 years it is. He's going to be 26 in September, but he certainly looks the part overall from like a height and weights perspective. 6'5", 225 pounds. Like I said, he was down at the Senior Bowl. Solid velocity, minimal wasted movement, something I noticed in his throwing motion when watching the tape. He's a leader, and then some underrated mobility. Like he's able to get out of the pocket, makes plays. For I don't think people give him too much credit for his overall mobility, but I think it's competent and could potentially be sustained at the next level. The thing is, I was reading a column, Jeremy, the other day from Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, his like pre-insider whatever story before he went down to Indianapolis, talking to some scouts, talking to some people before he went down to Indy. And what he was saying is the belief around the league is there's talks now that Tyler Shough could be a end of the 1st round type guy, which I just think is absolutely bananas. Going into the Senior Bowl, it was assumed he was going to be maybe a 7th round guy, but trending more towards the undrafted category overall, because he wasn't like all that productive. He wasn't crazy productive. And then most importantly, his age. So I think it's crazy that Shough is being talked about as a 1st round guy. I know Todd McShay's really high on him, but he's a day 3 dart throw type guy I'd look out for, but certainly not in the first 2 days.
I could say this about him. The first 2 days of the 3 days at the Senior Bowl, the first 2 days, he was by far the best quarterback there.
Okay. Who was better on the back end?
Well, Dart improved.
Okay.
Dart got better on the back end. The last day, Dart started doing some really nice things. But he was overall, I'd still give it to him, though, 2 days against 1 day. And Dart wasn't that good, as good as he was the first 2 days. All the big plays, all the good passes that got me excited about the receivers. Every time I looked at who the quarterback was, it was him. Like he was the guy throwing the corner of the end zone. So when Jaden Reed from Iowa or something like for example, went up and caught an amazing pass, and you look to see what it was Tyler. So if he, I don't remember that exactly if he was the same quarterback on the same team as him. But my point is, whenever a wide receiver caught a corner pass or the deep route, and maybe the quarterback was always him. Like that was in the morning. He was the morning quarterback, I believe. So he was on the team that went on the field early, and it's been too long. It's already been a month. I don't remember if it was the American or the national team, but he was the quarterback that popped out to me. And it wasn't based on knowing them or having pre-bias. I didn't even know who they were. I didn't, because they're, you can't, everybody, I'm famous for it. My eyesight is for crap now. In detail.
You got cataract surgery now, though.
So got it. So now I can see it. But so I could see the big movements, but I can't see the when they're, especially when they're moving, I can't see the names. So it's hard to see who's who. And I'm looking at the number and I'm looking at the sheet. All I know is it was Tyler. Every time I said, who was the quarterback? And I looked and I saw him walking away and I looked, number 2, Tyler Shough, so he was the guy. Do I use a 1st round pick on him? No way. No way do I use a 1st round pick on him. But because part of that could have been he's 25, 26 years old. He just handled the Senior Bowl and playing with new people and new coaches. He's more mature, and he just handled it better. And it took Dart a couple of days to adjust. And it took the other guys just weren't comfortable because it was a different scheme, different players around them. So there's a lot of explanation of why that could have been. But he was the best quarterback in those 2 days. His film is very good. There are things to like in this film. He throws the entire route tree. Like he throws different speeds. He has touch. He could throw the ball hard, soft, different speeds. There's things to like about him. I just don't know, like you said. I mean, I think he deservingly moved up into 4th, 5th round consideration, but he didn't go from undrafted to being a back of the first round or second round pick. No.
Not at all. Appreciate you tuning in. Smash the like. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Connor and Jeremy here with you on a Friday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Keep the questions going. Pin comment. Top of the show to call into the show. Super chats will cut the line. Super chat your question in. We'll get that up right on the screen immediately. Kuke Lake Jet fan in the building. Howard won't make it past round 3. McCord will shoot up as well. Dart will fall to the end of the first round. Quarterbacks get overvalued no matter the talent.
This is usually true. It's usually true. The only time it turns out to not be true is when the scouts and the teams are being private and are not seeing it the way the media sees it. Like, because a guy gets hype in the media and hype with us, well, how many times have we done that and then been wrong? There's been many times where we've seen quarterbacks slip.
Many times.
Jordan Travis is one of them. I mean, he had a lot of hype. He started to have hype. If he wasn't injured, he would have been a second round. A lot of people started liking him. We started liking him. Oh, he's perfect. You could put him on the IR. He doesn't have to take up a roster spot, right? And then there he was in the 5th round. I wouldn't have believed it before the draft with all the hype. Everybody, I thought people were saying he's going to move up and be a 3rd round pick anyway, even with the injury.
Mitch comes in with a $10 super chat. A few raffle tickets into now our March raffle. Every $2.99 super chat, every gifted membership will get you a ticket into our membership raffle in March. The prize is to come soon, so get in on that if you haven't already. Few raffle tickets for you. Mitch, thanks so much for the $10 super chat. Looking healthy. Chaos. Connor, thoughts on Will Howard and Kyle McCord? Mitch, I'm assuming you're just tuning in. Appreciate the $10 super chat as always. I broke down Will Howard and Kyle McCord. I'll sum it up here quickly. Will Howard is my quarterback 2 overall in this year's draft. I don't think he's going to get drafted till round 3 or 4. If the Jets really like him, take him. I think he is a super high floor because he's a super accurate passer, fine mobility, fine athleticism overall, but he's a really, really accurate pocket passer with a high floor, and that's what I'm looking for in a quarterback on day 3. So I'm high on Will Howard. And Kyle McCord, similar thing. Like I said, my comp for him is Jared Goff. Super, super accurate pocket passer, nice deep ball. The one concern, though, is his overall mobility and how he's going to be able to, stay in the pocket when pressure's bearing down, make plays. That's where I got the comp from Jared Goff, Jeremy, in the sense that he's this, traditional build for a quarterback who's really, really solid pass, thrower, obviously in the pocket. But then he gets out and he's trying to make plays. He's not too mobile. He's not too able to extend plays. So that's where I am on Will Howard and Kyle McCord. Mitch, appreciate the $10 super chat. Appreciate your support as always. Our guy Caden in the building, Jihad or Will. I think he's referring to pick 7 here. What do the Jets do? Look, Jeremy, I'm high on Jihad Campbell. I like Will Johnson for his versatility, the way he's able to backpedal, quick to get downhill, stop the run, like his size. I think he's 6'2", 220, something like that. I like him. I think you need a cornerback too. I want to address that need in free agency, whether that's re-signing Brendan Eccles, 2 years, $10 million, adding a Travarius Ward, Carlton Davis type guy, or even both, I would be on board with. And then drafting a cornerback later in the draft. Siobhan Revel from ECU is someone I'm super, super high on in the 2nd round if he were to fall. The thing is, ultimately, I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's the end of the 1st round, early 2nd round type guy. Thing is, they just heard, Jeremy, was it the injury? I saw from Tom Pelissero the other day. I'm going to check that on Twitter quickly, but I think there's an injury with Siobhan Revel, which might lower his draft stock. So I like Jihad Campbell. I like Jihad Campbell. Obviously, he's the linebacker, but Jihad Barron or Will Johnson. I'm just not, given what the board is most likely going to look like, I'm not too big on taking a cornerback 2 with the 7th overall pick.
No, because it's one of the deep positions. Like there's a kid from California, Noel something.
Well, are you talking to Noel Williams from Cal?
So that's a guy 3rd round, right? Maybe 4th. I mean, if you really want him, you're not going to wait to the 4th. Although you could, he might be there. Yeah. Just to give you an idea, it's just one of those positions in this year's draft, looking for a CB2 to compete, not even to play next year, but to compete with, if you bring him back Eccles or, Stiggers. He's Will Johnson, great player. If they take him, I'm not gonna cry that, like I understand he's a great player. I just don't know if positional need and the depth of the cornerback position in this draft, if it's a good allocation of resources.
Here's the tweet from Tom Pelissero. It says East Carolina cornerback Siobhan Revel, a first-round draft prospect who had ACL reconstruction on October 15th, is on schedule to be fully cleared for this summer. So that's the good news regarding his injury. Siobhan Revel, we're talking here, cornerback out of ECU for the Jets to potentially target in the second round. I think you made some great points there. Again, Noah Williams, certainly an interesting name. Again, it's one of those deeper position groups. When you think about it, I know we talk about how there's not too many really solid prospects in this year's draft who could come in and be top 5 guys at the position right away, who last year you could get anyone at any spot. Like we're talking about the offensive lineman last year, tight end group, wide receiver group was just absolutely insane. But overall, there's some position groups that are super deep in this year's draft class, unlike we've seen in years prior. So I think that's a position you can certainly address in one of the later rounds. Courtney NJ, love Milroe at 42. Courtney, I like Milroe as a day 3 dart throw, but certainly not at 42, given some of the players you're going to see there. Xavier Watts, Tyleek Williams from Ohio State. I'm a huge fan of him. Siobhan Revel, who we just spoke about. I'd take Milroe on day 3. I just think the floor is so low. The accuracy is such a concern.
And again, 42 means you're not taking 1 in 26, and I'm not doing that for a one-read quarterback in an RPO offense. I'm just not doing it. There's just not enough evidence that he could play an NFL system. He might, and a dart throw, fine. Third, fourth round, especially third round, even like you want to take a shot at him because you love his athleticism, and he will move up the boards because of his athleticism. There's no question about it. But once you use 42, you're saying you're not going to take a guy in 20. And to me, there's just not enough evidence that he could be a drop back passer who could go through progressions and succeed in the NFL. And I'm not saying he can't. He might end up being great. Any of these backs might end up being great. But to use a high value pick, I need the evidence. I can't roll.
You can't gamble on potential, on upside when you're drafting a quarterback in the early second round. I agree with that 1,000%. Jalen Milroe is Joe Milton and Anthony Richardson combined. Of crazy. Reminds me a lot of Joe Milton. I'm going to focus on him. Just a crazy athlete with untapped arm strength. Untapped. He has one of the strongest arms. The thing is, the floor is so low when you're looking at him. And also, dropped him at 42. He's another guy who might have to sit for a year or even 2 because he's a pure athlete. You're going to need to take that athlete in Jalen Milroe and teach him how to play the quarterback position. That's what you need to do with Jalen Milroe.
I mean, look at it from this perspective, okay? This is the perspective I look at it from. Justin Fields was one of the most outstanding running mobile quarterbacks of my lifetime. You got Michael Vick, you got guys. Fields is somewhere on that list, right? In that top 8 of just insane. Right?
Yeah.
Fields was a much better prospect. And I didn't love him, but he was a much better prospect than Milroe. Like, you can't compare Justin Fields to Milroe as prospects. And Justin Fields is not working out, right? He's a really good running quarterback.
He's bouncing around,
I think he's a great backup quarterback. He's not proving to be yet. It's not over for him. He's 25, but so far it's not panning out that he looks like he's going to be a guy you want to make your future quarterback and put and risk. And now you're going to tell me Milroe, yeah, I get it. He's an amazing athlete and he's very mobile and dangerous. But when I look at and I compare him to Justin Fields, and I'm not even going to put him in the same category as Justin Fields as a prospect. How am I going to use a high pick on that kid? Like, I can't justify it.
You're running on pure upside. You're running on pure potential there. When looking like, I would rather take Jackson Dart in the second round over Jalen Milroe. And you guys know I'm not a big Jackson Dart fan. I would take Jackson Dart over him in the second round. I would take Dylan Gabriel over him in the second round. Jeremy, I know you got to go here in a little, so only a few minutes left. Dylan Gabriel, obviously, you were down at Senior Bowl, a top quarterback down there. What'd you observe from him? And I know height is a massive concern. Are you comfortable rolling the dice on him as overall as a day 2, day 3 guy, as that dart throw type quarterback? We're putting Will Howard, Kyle McCord in that category.
More day 3, not that I don't believe he could be a great quarterback, just not enough evidence, right? Because he plays for one of those teams You're playing in Oregon, like it's just hard to know because he's got this great offensive line. He's playing out in the pack. He's playing out where I am against horrible defenses, throwing to wide open guys. That's not anti though. That's not bad. Like it doesn't mean he's bad. So I'm not saying it as he can't be good because that's not his fault that he plays for a good team and his receivers are open. But at the same time, me picking a quarterback, again, it's that same rolling of the dice. It's like with the other guys, it's just like, I just don't know how it's going to look in the NFL. And, the one good thing you could say is Oregon seems to be able to pick really good guys because, I wasn't a Bo Nix fan, but he's working out like with Peyton, in that system, he's working. Justin Herbert, is pretty freaking good. I wouldn't mind having him as my quarterback. So there is that excitement of, there's not a lot of evidence, but he's coming from what's becoming known as a pretty good quarterback school that's having some success right now in producing NFL quarterbacks. So if you want to use a day 3 pick on him, I'm all behind that, but I'm not a second or third round pick on him. I mean, if it's up to me, if it's second round pick, I'm angry. If it's third round pick, then I'm kind of like,
okay.
But like, because day 3 makes me worry that it rules out 26 as well. Like, I don't know. You're not tied to it. Like, you're not handcuffed to it at date as a third round pick, but it would make it much harder to take a quarterback in 26 in the first round if you just use pick 92 in a year where you kind of needed position players.
Agreed, 1000%. JD says Glenn has showed he's doing, he's going to do things his way if he loves Ward or Sanders, don't be shocked with the trade up. Jeremy, I just don't think any player, like especially Ward or Sanders, I just don't think any players, even Abdul Carter, even Travis Hunter, I don't think any player is worth trading up for in this year's draft class. I know we spoke at the top of the show of, should the Jets take Ward if he's there at 7? But I just don't think overall any player is worth giving up assets for in this year's draft.
To me, it's just impatience. Like the fans who want to do it, you're just being impatient. We're not winning the Super Bowl next year, right? We'd be thrilled if we won 9 games. We're not. So like to get to where we want to be, is it really the end of the world to just wait until you can get the true franchise quarterback next year? Yeah. There's going to be so many. And like Ward would not be, like I promise you, whatever Ward's ranking is, if you look at the number, like if you have him as an 83 or whatever it is, anybody that's really doing it, he's not going to be in the top 5 next year. And he wouldn't have been in the top 5 last year. But you know what? If Glenn loves him, yeah, okay, maybe he does it, but I would be shocked if he loved him that much because I'm watching the same film. You're watching the same film. We're all watching the same film. Like, so why would he love him so much that in a way that we can't see it? Like, I think he's a great athlete. He's really good. If he dropped to 7, I wouldn't even be pissed if we took him. Like, I'd be okay. I'm a little disappointed, but okay with it. But like, I don't understand what he would see in him because, like, if you're going to give up your next year's first round and 2 second-round picks and give up all that potential talent and picks, it got to be for a guy you believe is generational. It's got to be for a guy you believe is a can't miss. And I can't see how you could look at a guy who plays in that program and say he's a can't miss.
Agreed. Yeah, 1000%.
I mean, who's played quarterback in Miami and not been good? Like Van Dyke. Van Dyke looked amazing.
He's bouncing around though. Like he's going to SMU now. He's what is he going to be when he comes out? 26, 20. He's going to be Tyler Shook next year.
Yeah.
He is going to be Tyler Shook next year because he's a really, really solid quarterback. If he never got hurt at Miami,
it was that
you're talking a completely that COVID year that screwed him over with all the eligibility stuff. He was at Wisconsin last year. Now he's going over to SMU, which is going to be pretty much his final season. It's going to be he's going to be the.
How can you laugh? Because there are people who laugh when you say Van Dyke. How can you be a Ward fan and laugh at him? Because when he was in Miami, he showed you what you have to be concerned about. It's like you play quarterback for Miami. If you have any talent at all and you're a good college quarterback, you're going to look really good. I'm not saying Ward is just like any other guy, though. He has a very special mobility, and there were times where my eyes came out of my head. But at the same time, I have concern about the fact that he's playing against very inferior talent. and like it's
Yeah.
hard to really judge if he's going to transition to the NFL level.
Jake Asman, our guy, comes in with his 2-month member super chat. Jeremy and Connor, a dynamic team like any other. Jake is the best. Jake, how was great coverage at the combine? Are you heading back? Are you staying for the weekend? Are you heading back tomorrow? Safe travels home. As always, great content from Radio Row in Indianapolis. As always, Sharon comes in, says Rourke is interesting. Jeremy, another player who reminds me a lot of Tyler Shook in this year's draft class from an age, a height perspective. Tyler Shook, 6'5", 225. Rourke is 6'5", 223. He's going to be 25 in October. He's just a traditional, pretty much pocket passer. Has the traditional height for a quarterback at the NFL level at 6'5". Really, really high football IQ. Great at reading coverages. And his overall timing, he pretty much runs on rhythm when he passes in the pocket. I like Rourke, but 7th round, maybe. I'm not buying into someone who's going to be 25 years old. I want that guy who's 21, 20, 22, in that range. Like Will Howard, for example. He's the exception. I like him so much. He's 24. I don't care. I like him so much. I just think he has such a high floor. If you're not getting
Will Howard played against top-notch, high elite,
and he has over 1,800 dropbacks. Again,
Yeah.
Curtis Rourke is playing at Indiana. Tyler Shook has played at a gazillion different places, most recently playing at Louisville. Thing is, like, Rourke, what are you getting in him that you're not getting from Tyler Shook? A 7th round guy, potentially. I have a draftable grade on him. He just doesn't intrigue me.
Yeah, but you know what? If they used one of their 2 6th-round picks on him, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, let's see what he got. Well, it's gonna be fun to watch him in preseason, right? It'll be fun to watch him. Like I'd be like, okay, let's see what he got. But like, guys like that are just. I mean, I'm gonna say something that's gonna be very unpopular with people, and it's just a fact because I did it myself.
Let's hear it.
Oh, it's true. Okay, I went through a little exercise. I went and this so people could copy this and prove.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I went and I Googled and I looked at every draft from 2000 to 2024. And I looked at every single quarterback that was taken in the 3rd round or later. And it may have been 4th round or later, but I think it was 3rd round or later. And I looked at every one of them. I counted how many there were. And there was like over 100, well over 100. And I said, how many of them? And then I went through the list, became starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And it worked out to 4%.
Wow. That's just the hit rate.
So that's the statistic. And I know it has nothing to do with individual case study. Like when you look at a player, if you love a player. But everyone's naming these different players for the 3rd or for the 4th round, 5th round. People are naming these mid-round players. And I'm just saying the reality, whether you like it or not, is 4%. That's how many become starting quarterbacks. And you could probably name some of them. Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy. Like, they were the names we all know. They're the names that we're all going to, like, recognize and know. Those were the guys. But it was 4%. So that I can't get that number out of my head. Like, if you're using a 4th-round pick, understand it's been typically 4%.
Nick T in the building. Trade Connor. Trade back to 20. Take Banks at right tackle and set offensive line. Get a 3rd at minimum. Maybe another 2 or perhaps a 1 and 26. And then take Dart in the 2nd with a DT/best player available, a defensive tackle/best player available in the 3rd/4th. A lot of needs addressed. Jeremy, we spoke about it. Don't think Banks is going to might be able to play tackle at the next level, but isn't going to be all that serviceable with how handsy he is. Dart in the 2nd round. No, thank you. And if I'm trading back to 20, I want to pick up a lot more than just a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, no offense. This is like my nightmare. This would be a nightmare for me. This is like everything I don't want to happen. Let's take a guy in a weak tackle draft that technically might end up being a guard, and let's pick him as our tackle. And then let's take a quarterback who's going to take us out of the running for 2026, who has who should not touch the football field next year and might need 2 years before we can even see what he can be. No, thank you.
Yeah. I get that 1,000%. Brandon Newsome in the building. Need the evidence to take a rocket arm dynamic quarterback with a sub 4.3 speed and elite pocket presence at 42 would be okay. Taking Mason Graham at 7, pass rushing defensive tackle who doesn't have a season with more than 3.5 sacks in his 3-year college career. What are we doing, Jeremy?
I got a very simple thing for that. I don't want a running back. I want a quarterback. Every year there are quarterbacks who are phenomenal runnings. Oh, they run 4.3, 4.4 every year. Justin Fields, Vince Young, Jamarcus Russell. How many players can we name that were supposed to be? What are we doing here? You got to be the greatest guy in the world. You know what else you have to be able to do? You have to be able to drop back 3 steps or 5 steps, go through
your progressions and hit a wide open receiver.
Right. I don't want a running back. I want a quarterback.
And not have a 50% completion rate. Like,
I mean, you gotta watch him and watch the system. Every quarterback that plays for Alabama looks great if you look at the box score.
Exactly.
You gotta watch the player.
Caden, trade back in the first, get Dark in another second and third. Take Kenneth Grant, who's bigger and can stuff up, run more than Graham. Take Elijah Arroyo with the extra third. Few things. Dart, no, not at all in the second round. We spoke about that. Kenneth Grant's not going to be there in the second. Arroyo, I like though. He's 6'5", 250 pounds.
At least in this scenario, you're not giving up assets. You're not giving up, trading up, and giving away first round and second round picks. And at least, even if Dart doesn't work, at least you gained other assets and got other players. So I'll say that for it. Like, of all the scenarios that people are talking about, this one I could live with the most, only because even though I don't want Dart and I don't want to do that with the pick we trade back for, at least we traded back and got multiple players to fill positions. So if Dart doesn't work out, at least we still, we can go back to looking for a quarterback, but at least we filled some holes.
Yeah, for sure. Again, the thing is, Grant's not going to be there. There's talks of him not escaping the top 10. Talks of now, being there at 42. I think that's a joke.
Yeah, too many people are looking at PSN and some of these mock drafts that haven't adjusted yet.
PFF, I use PFF, but I try to be realistic. Like, they've Dart there in the 6th round at times. So I was like, I'm not going to take Jackson Dart in the 6th round just because it's going to mess up the entire mock draft. Jeremy, appreciate you hopping on. I know you're really running short on time. Nick T, who threw the Kelvin Banks comment, wants to come on and talk to you. You have a few minutes for Nick?
Sure.
Let's do it. Nick T joining us here on the program. Nick,
hey, guys.
What's up, Nick? How's it going?
So, I'm good. How you guys doing? Happy Friday.
Can't complain. Thank God it's Friday. TGIF.
Seriously. So, here's, I guess, and I haven't been following as much, like, the pro day and everything else. So, where's Jackson Dart in terms of draft comp? Like, where's everyone consensus? Because I've heard him third, as high as second best quarterback to, and everyone has their own rankings, right? But, like, the consensus or the average.
Jeremy, would you say end of first, early second?
That would be the average, but Nick, I think he's going in the first round because he's a quarterback.
Yeah, same.
So that's what I worry about, because I don't think he'll be there. But, like, the scenario I presented, and I agree with you, Connor. I don't think that's why I say, like, I always go by the Jimmy Johnson draft pick value chart.
Yeah.
So I think you trade back from 7 to, let's just say, 20. I don't know who's there, but, like, whoever the comparable team is. I do think that there probably is a 1 involved in that, in terms of that value. That's what I'm saying. Is, like, I think getting back to, and Banks is the one. I said Banks because in terms of the offensive line class, I like him the most. I blank on the guy's name. The kid from LSU,
Miles Frazier. Talking about the tackle, Will Campbell.
Yeah, Will Campbell. Yeah.
To me, he's a guard, 100% guard.
So
we'll know with Campbell, though. To Nick's defense, with Campbell, he's a guard because when the measurements come in,
Also, the upright stance is an overall.
That's exactly what he's going to grade out at, and I see it too. Like, I don't see him like.
Yeah, with the upright stance, exactly.
Yeah,
he's way too.
And that's what, and all the mock drafts say the Pats are taking. Please take him. Like, he might be a great guard. Like, by all means, take him. Absolutely.
Please,
and have Ted McMillan fall in the Jets' laps at pick 7. Exactly. That's the dream. Nick, what do you see in Kelvin Banks, though, that you don't get in Will Campbell? Kelvin Banks, for me, is just a handsier version of Will Campbell, who has a little more versatility, who not a sure thing he's going to play tackle.
Athleticism. I see athleticism. And for me, I want a tackle who's an athlete. And I can see, first off, Fashanu looks like that. And I know he had the knees, but he plays the part. He's done it. I think we're legitimately, fingers crossed, knock on wood, whatever, set at left tackle. most of the offensive line, 4/5 of the offensive line is pretty much set. If you want to, you could argue, yeah, if you want to move Tippmann to guard, it's relatively probably
It's not worth it.
Yeah. But if you could find some sort of upgrade, I don't think there's a center. I don't know anything about the draft at the interior offensive line at this point in time. But that's my point, is that you could set the whole offensive line by having a right tackle in this draft. And if you
I just want to say, from a value proposition, have you looked and watched, just from a value proposition of a guy you can get in the second round? I'm going to give you a name. Have you watched Josh Connerly from Oregon?
What position?
Tackle.
He's a tackle.
Tackle. No, I haven't watched him yet. Yeah.
Okay, so
I only watched the top 3 or 4, to be honest. So
he's in the top 3, though.
If you watch him, okay, and I don't love him in the second round high, like I am, but if you watch Banks and then watch this kid, look, type in Oregon games and just watch him really carefully. I'm wondering if you would tell me that you think that Banks is better enough than him to take him in the first round pick, when you could get him with a second round pick, and then watch Ozzy Tapilo and tell me that you think the value, that he plays so much better than Ozzy Tapilo, that you wouldn't rather have Ozzy Tapilo in the third round. So my only point is, I'm watching film and I'm watching guys that look as good as him. If not, I would even rank him higher. That even if I'm wrong and he's a little bit better than them, these are second, third round guys that could start day one in the NFL. That's where I'm coming from.
No. And I, fair enough. Like, you've studied it more than I have, to be fair. So in my point, like, Banks is the one that I've seen to my knowledge. So you might be completely correct. My point is more on the overall strategy, and what I articulated in the comment is that I really think Jackson Dart is solid. Connor, you and I have talked about the whole Parcells theory.
Yep. That's why you like Mac Jones. I
do like Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones, honestly, I think long term, I think at very best he's a solid backup quarterback for the next 2 years for the organization. And
at best,
again, as a Testaverde guy from '98, there's a lot of similarities. Failed first round pick, prototypical quarterback in terms of size and stature, West Coast type system. He has a very similar build and fundamentals to Testaverde in what I remember and what I recall from my childhood memories and things of that nature. That's why I like Mac Jones.
If you were, let's do a comparison. If I was to tell you Jackson Dart is going to be exactly Mac Jones, have the same exact career trajectory of where he is now, what's your draft value on him?
5th round.
So,
when would you draft him? If I told you he's going to have a decent first year, he's going to play in a system that's dink and dunk, then he's going to be asked to do more. He's going to kind of fall on his face. He's going to end up on another team. Solid backup. You're right. I would not. I mean, but what you think of Mac Jones? How do you translate that to draft pick? Right.
So a low end starter, high end backup. Pretty much.
Like low end starter, high end backup. What's the draft pick for that? That you'd be if you're the Jets and you know, forget, and it doesn't even have to be Jackson Dart. If you're the Jets and you know you have a quarterback that you know is going to be exactly like Mac Jones, that's his career trajectory, what pick do you want to take him at?
Well, I think that's kind of a loaded question, though. Like, if you're telling me that, to this date, right, we have 3 years of Mac Jones, who's a failed starter. So if you told me no, because I'm looking for a starter who's going to win me a Super Bowl. So that's kind of a loaded question. So
no. I mean, you're the one comparing him to Mac Jones. I'm just saying. So you think
Jackson but you're saying Mac Jones. So no. I think a better comparison, to be fair, is saying Mac Jones coming out of college, because you're telling me 3 years in, if Dart is
more athletic. Dart is far more athletic, in my opinion, than Jones was.
And that's my point. So that's part of my point, is that he fits all the mold of what I've seen. And actually, if I compare, so in my own defense, if I could, Mac Jones compared to Jackson Dart. From what I remember of Mac Jones in college, 1 year college starter, right? Alabama, very good program, national champion. Jackson Dart, I don't know. I think he's got probably 3 years starters, right? Because he's got the Parcells rule, so or at least 2.5 years. Started close to 30 games. What I recall about Mac Jones is he was immobile on a great team loaded with talent. I don't notice the same qualities about Jackson Dart that I notice about Mac Jones. Also, Mac Jones, prototypical passer. However, pocket passer. Everything that I saw and I remember, and again, this is years ago, and Connor, as you get older, you lose a lot of this after many, many years of having good times, and making great memories. But regardless, I don't remember Mac Jones ever having and faced that much pressure with the team that he's on. What I see in the highlights of Jackson Dart that I love
Highlights
is that
key there though. Highlights. Like there's
well,
so
in
many
anything.
lowlights. That's the thing. Like when I evaluate a quarterback, I don't watch highlights because if I watch Cam Ward highlight tape, I would think he's the next Lamar Jackson right away. If I watched Anthony Richardson highlight tapes, I would think he's gonna be
Yeah,
the
but
greatest.
but to be fair,
No. You have to watch.
That was my mistake with Zach
Yeah,
Wilson. That was my
yeah,
mistake.
when
I
you're
watched every
evaluating
highlight
exactly.
and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, he's gonna be the greatest.
exactly.
No.
You
And
have to
here's
watch
why.
4 games, and you have to look at his mechanics. The lower body mechanics are absolutely disgusting. Have you seen him when pressure is bearing down? He collapses. He tries
That's
to
exactly my
force
point, Connor.
turnovers.
When
Your
pressure
point
is
is he's
on
not a
you,
good quarterback.
no. If when pressure's on you, a lot of his highlights, when pressure's on him, he's making accurate throws. That's why I like him.
That's one of his main struggles.
That's the
You're
same
looking
reason
at
I like
highlight
Patrick
tapes, though. You're looking at
Mahomes.
highlight tapes.
When you look at highlights, they're taking the times he was under pressure where he had success, right? But for every one of those, you're not seeing the 8 times where he throws an interception, incomplete pass.
The 8 to the 34 touchdowns he threw.
Well, I mean, look, college quarterback, that
Quarterback
system,
isolated friendly
you have to
reads
understand
is
that.
Lane Kiffin's offense.
You have to understand that system.
But
and
Alabama has great wide receivers. You still have to throw open guys that are not going to be in the NFL at all.
We're not saying Jalen Milrow's great. We're talking about Jackson Dart.
Alabama gets great talent. Are you kidding me? Alabama versus Ole Miss, like
right.
But the top prospects. Like,
but that's why I think we both agree that we have Dart above Milrow.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yes, I think that's fair.
Yeah, of course.
But that's my point. Like, that's why I like it. But overall, like going back to it's the whole strategy of if you can pull back, address the need of the team as a whole, fix the offensive line, right? All 5 positions in theory, hopefully, if they play as good as they did this year, right? Plus Banks being adequate, or Banks or any of the tackles you suggest. I'm open with tackle 3 through 6, let's just say, right? And that's the idea behind it, is that the team still has holes to fill, and overall, pulling back, the quarterback class, everyone agrees, is not that great. If Dart can fall to the second round, you still address that need. You can let him sit behind, I don't know if it's Tyrod, Jameis Winston comes in.
Yeah, Justin Fields, yeah.
I 100% agree with your philosophy about trading back to fill holes. I love your philosophy about looking for a tackle, and I don't agree on the tackle, the exact player, but who cares? I agree 100% with your philosophy. Trade back, get more picks, fill holes. We need right tackle. We need safeties. We need a bunch of things, right? So I think I agree with you 100%. I think the only thing we don't agree on, and that's okay, is the players that we like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nick, appreciate you calling in as always.
Pleasure as always. Happy Friday, guys. Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick T checking in here on the program. Appreciate all your support, Nick. Appreciate you calling in to the show. As always, make sure you smash that like button. You are subscribed to the channel. Greatly appreciate all your support. Keep the questions coming. I'll get to those calling to the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Jeremy, can't thank you enough for your time tonight. Great chopping up with you for the first time in over a year now here on the show. So great to get you back on. Appreciate all your support. We'll certainly have you on again before the draft. You're the best. You got any final thoughts? And plug everything.
I'm actually, if you look under my name, I'm for.
There we go.
The thing I really want to plug most is Brooklyn Brothers Food Review.
What's up?
It's a channel I have with my brothers where we review food all over the country and all over the world because one of my brothers travels a lot internationally.
Throw the link in the chat, guys.
Anyway, that's the thing I'm promoting. If you want to check out my channel, football, that's great. Jets Chaos. I'm also on the Talking Jets Network. I do a show with Matt O'Leary, 3 p.m. Eastern every Thursday. So those are all my things. That's all my stuff. Connor, you're just so way beyond your years. You're amazing.
I appreciate it.
And I don't want to insult you and say, because I think it's an insult when people say you're great for your age. You're great for any age. You're great.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jeremy.
So you're not just great for a teenager. You're great for any age. You're awesome. Love your show. Love your content. I love being here. I'm here to come on anytime I'm invited.
Jeremy, you're the best. Appreciate you as always. Have a good night.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy from Jets Chaos checking in here on the show over an hour and a half with Jeremy. Super, super fun chopping it up with him. I'm going to stay on here a little longer. Answer your questions. Take your calls. Pin comment at the top of the chat to call into the show. Keep the questions coming. We'll get to those. And most importantly, at the end of tonight's show, I have the wheel up, so I'll just share the screen now. It's not going to happen right now, but our February membership raffle, baby, where we're giving away all the epic prizes, the Mark Gastineau signed jersey, the Joe Klecko signed jersey, the Bill Parcells signed photo, the free item from our merch store, channel emoji, all coming up here soon. So if you give to the membership or your $2.99 super chat, stick around for that. And then also, this month, the prizes are soon to come for March, but every $2.99 super chat, obviously starting today, starting the past few days, and every gifted membership will get you a ticket into our raffle. And someone wants a few tickets to start off the March month. Sam Aiken comes in with $5. Sam, thanks so much. Don't understand the dart pick. Seriously, why dart? Better to waste a second on Siobhan Revel or Tylee Williams. I agree 1,000%. I don't get the dart hype at all. We spoke about Revel earlier. Sam, Jeremy, and I were super high on him. And then Tylee Williams, another name I mentioned, over 330 pounds, someone you could plug in right next to Quinnen Williams to be that day one interior run stuffing type guy. So agree with every point you made there. Appreciate the $5. As always, like I said, going to stay on here a little longer, answer your questions, take your calls before we head over to our membership raffle. Back to the phone lines. Our gay Sal is on the line.
Hey.
Sal, you're on NY Flight Jets Talk.
Sure. Oh, I would have loved to talk to that other guy, not the person
I'm
that
sorry,
you had.
Sal. Sorry, we went a little over there.
No, the guy that you had that had
Nick?
Nick, yeah, Nick.
Okay.
Nick.
We'll get him on with you next time.
Because for what he said about Dart, I'm not a big Dart fan. I'll tell you that right now. He just reminds me a lot of Zach Wilson, not just because of his number. He just reminds me of so much of Zach
Same
Wilson.
high school too.
And same high school. I just don't see him being I wouldn't say not a good quarterback, but I feel like he'll be like a good backup, if anything. And I would rather us, I'm starting to like the idea of us not getting a quarterback at all in this draft, to be honest. I like us not getting a quarterback at all and just going out the trenches and getting a tight end and getting good defensive line, or safeties. I'm fine with that.
I see where you're coming with that. I just still like trying to take dart throws on these guys until you really get it figured out. So, depending on who's the board, it can't hurt to throw a 4th round, 5th round dart on a Jalen Milroe, a Tyler Shook. See what they have coming, compete while you're still hunting for your franchise guy.
Yeah, maybe like a 5th round or a 4th round. I'm fine with it, but when you look at this whole roster, you get to see we have not a lot of holes to fill, but we got some holes to fill, and for us to even think about getting already getting a franchise quarterback, it's a little bit redundant, if that makes sense. I rather just get a bridge quarterback and let that guy deal with what we have right now, and then the next year with the better talent at the QB position going after them. That's my thing anyway.
Sal, appreciate the calls. Always appreciate your support on the show. You got any final thoughts?
But okay, I got a question.
Yeah.
Who do you want the Brooklyn Nets to get in this draft? If we stick to where we are, I know that moving up or moving down, but if we stick to where we are, what do you want it to get? I want it to get that point guard from Illinois. from that.
It's so tough, Laysal, because there's a chance like if the Nets could put it on, they can get in the play. I think they're still going to end in the play-in, and then there's also the chance that they pick at the number 2 overall pick. I think they're going to be in that 6 or 7 range. I like Trey Johnson a lot, the guard from Texas. I know the guy you're talking about, Kasparis Jakakinsius, I think is how you say his name, something crazy like that. I like VJ Edgecombe a lot too. I just don't think they're going to be in the sweepstakes for a Cooper Flagg, a Dylan Harper, and Ace Bailey. I like Trey Johnson though a lot, the shooting guard from Texas. So I'd be on board with him. The thing is, the tank didn't work out, myself.
I wasn't really interested in really tanking. Like for me, it's just I wanted to watch my team and see if they could win. And if we are winning with the team that we had, we just found out that Joey Fernandez is him as a coach. You know what I mean? And we just saw that. Now I'm like, no matter what rookie we get, with the 4 pick that we have, we could get some. We could develop them into great players. We could develop them into so many great players. So that's my bottom line with that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Laysal checking in here on NY Flight Jets Talk. Great call as always, Laysal. Appreciate your support here on the program. Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Like, share, and subscribe, baby. Free way to contribute. Helps us grow significantly here on the program. Looking like we're going to do a watch party for the NFL Combine tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, we're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the draft. We're currently at 1,657. Hit subscribe completely free. Helps us grow significantly. Are you guys ready, baby? I think it might be time. For our membership raffle. Let me know if you guys are ready in the chat. Let me know if you guys want to see the raffle. A ton of prizes to give away this month, so let me know in the chat. Hey, you guys ready to see the membership raffle? I certainly am. A great month of gifted memberships. I appreciate all you guys supporting the show as always. So should be fun giving away these great prizes on tonight's show. Let me know if you guys are ready in the chat. See the membership raffle. Get your last questions, comments, thoughts in before we go over to that. Have the wheel of names all set up here on our tab on our other monitor. So ready to do that. Let me know when you guys are ready to see the membership raffle. And again, the prizes for March are coming soon, but the membership raffle for February got cut off a few days ago. But now, every $2.90, everyone who's gotten a super chat will get a few tickets the amount of tickets it equates to for March, and then the prizes come soon. Get into our membership raffle if you guys are wondering. Is every $2.99 super chat and every gifted membership will get you a ticket. So a $50 super chat gets you X amount of tickets. 50 memberships get you 50 tickets of that nature. So ready to do that. Appreciate it. Sharon's ready. Jets flight plans ready. So let's do it. Pull up the wheel of names. Some ground rules before we get started, ladies and gentlemen. Rule numero uno. This is pretty much the only ground rule we have here. Is you have 1 week to claim your prize. And claiming your prize, I'll pin my email. Once it's all said and done, email me your info and then we'll get it to you. If the person doesn't claim the prize, I'm on the record saying, it said last month, if the person doesn't claim the prize in 1 week, they lose it, and we move on. That's what happens. So you have 1 week to claim the prize. I'm not tracking down people for their info, so you guys can come and find me if you want your prize. You have 1 week to claim it before we move on. So I appreciate you guys checking in. As always, if you want a prize from, there we go. Thought I lost the wheel for a second. If you want a prize from last month, I have your info, so I'll just ship it right out to you, and then I'll email you saying that you won the prize, and we'll send that right to you. But if you haven't, you're going to email me after. I'll throw the email at the top of the chat. Time to bring up the wheel, baby. So the prizes before we get into the wheel, though, this month, if you're just tuning in, Joe Klecko signed jersey, Mark Gastineau signed jersey, Bill Parcells signed photo, free item from our merch store, and a channel emoji. That said, what do we start with? What prize do we raffle off first? I know we went largest to biggest, largest to smallest, rather, last year. Last month, rather. What do we do here? Because I don't think there's like a consensus number one. Like I think the Parcells and the Parcells photo, Klecko and Gastineau jersey are all pretty equal and you know how many people would want it. So we'll go full. What are we gonna do here to get the full? There we go. This is the good way to get the larger share screen. What are we gonna start with? What do we want to start with? Let me know in the chat what we start with. Throw a poll in. End the current poll. We'll do a watch party for tomorrow. You guys want it? You guys get it? What should we first? Parcells. See Klecko. Boom. Started the poll, and we will set a 30-second timer. We'll check that in 30 seconds, and whoever's in the lead, we will then do that prize. 25 seconds left on the clock right now. Parcells' photo is winning. Vote at the poll at the top of the chat, which will determine which item we raffle off first. Parcells, then Gastineau jersey is 0 votes. Wow. No one wants the Gastineau jersey. Everyone vote at the top of the poll. 7 for the live count. How much time you have left? 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. There we go. There it is. And the poll, and the Parcells photo wins at 67%. So what we'll be raffling off now is the Bill Parcells signed photo. Whoever's name this lands on will win a Bill Parcells signed photo. So I appreciate you guys tuning in here as always. And then you have, like I said, you have 1 week to claim your prize. If not, we'll move on. So 1 week to claim your prize. I'll throw the email and stuff in there. And then if you don't claim it in the week, boom, we move on. Whoever's name this lands on, you want a Bill Parcells signed photo. Let's see. So many names. 356 memberships this month. Can't thank you guys enough. Number 1 Austrian Jet fan. You have won a Bill Parcells signed photo. Thanks so much for all your support. 1 week to claim your prize, or else we move on. Appreciate all your support. As always, here on the program, you have won a Bill Parcells signed photo. Let me throw that in the notes app. Let's see. Raffle prizes. Parcells photo goes to our number 1 Austrian Jet fan. You have 1 week to claim your prize. I will throw that in. Number 1 Austrian Jet fan. Jets fan. Appreciate all your support. As always, 1 week to claim your prize. I'll throw my email in the channel. Throw it at the end of after every prize. CLongPW715@gmail.com or DM me on any social media platform. Send me your info. We'll get to that. Congrats to Austrian Jet fan who wins a Bill Parcells signed photo. Next up, we'll do the Joe Klecko signed jersey. Whoever's name this lands on gets a Joe Klecko signed jersey. 1 month to claim the prize. And Jeffrey R. Wins a Joe Klecko, excuse me. Joe Klecko signed jersey. Jeffrey, that will go right out to you. I have your info from last month. Appreciate it. As always, congrats on winning the Joe Klecko signed jersey. Next up here, a little Mark Gastineau signed jersey. And you have 1 week to claim your prize before we move on. And that will go to Jeffrey R. again. So he wins the Mark Gastineau signed jersey and the Bill Parcells signed jersey. Congrats to Jeffrey R. on winning both those prizes. Now we moved on. Whoever's name this lands on earns a free item from our merch store. And Jeffrey R. wins a free item from our merch store. That's what happens when you give 220 memberships in 1 month. You win all these prizes. So 2 signed jerseys and a free item from our merch store. Whoever name this lands on, you have a week to claim the free item from our merch store, by the way. Whoever's name this lands on now will win a channel emoji that you have 1 week to claim. And he wins it again. He wins it again, ladies and gentlemen. So for Jeffrey R. during this epic raffle, he wins 2 signed jerseys, a free item, and a channel emoji. And Austrian Jet fan takes home our Bill Parcells signed photos. That's what happens when you have 220 of the 356 gifted memberships in 1 month. Ladies and gentlemen, congrats to Jeffrey R. That'll all be going out to you shortly. And then Austrian Jet fan, hit me up with your info and I'll get that to you. Can't thank you guys enough for the epic show. Can't thank you guys enough for all your support. Couldn't do these raffles without you. Just tuning in, we were joined by Jeremy of Jets Chaos for the first hour and a half of the show. So rewind and watch back once we officially wrap things up. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with a watch party and hopefully a guest on at some point. So I appreciate you all tuning in. That'll do it for me here on this Friday evening. I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off. JETS, 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 Jets.